If you've ever wondered why some gardens seem alive with rich, crumbly soil while others stay hard, dry, and stubborn, the secret is often hidden underground. Worms. Lots of them. Here at Root Shaven Grounds, we talk a lot about working with nature instead of fighting it, and today I'm sharing one of the simplest, most powerful soil-building tricks I've ever used. It costs almost nothing, takes very little effort, and yet it can completely transform your raised beds and garden plots over time. The idea is simple. Bury the right organic material in your soil, and worms will come in numbers that may surprise you. Not a handful, not a few. We're talking hundreds, even thousands, quietly doing the hard work for you day and night. Let's dig into exactly what to bury, why it works so well, and how to do it properly so you get the best results season after season. Before we talk about what to bury, it's important to understand why worms matter so much. Earthworms are living soil builders. As they move through the ground, they create channels that improve aeration and drainage. Those tunnels allow water to penetrate deeper and roots to grow stronger. At the same time, worms feed on organic matter and convert it into castings, which are one of the richest natural fertilizers you can give your plants. Worm castings contain nutrients in a form plants can absorb easily, along with beneficial microbes that improve soil life. Gardens with high worm activity tend to hold moisture better, resist compaction, and support healthier plants with fewer inputs. In short, if you want fertile soil without constant fertilizing, you want worms. So what exactly should you bury? Well, the answer is unfinished organic kitchen waste, especially plant-based scraps. Fruit and vegetable peels, cores, wilted greens, coffee grounds, crushed eggshells, and even stale bread can all work wonders when buried properly. These materials are soft, moisture-rich, and full of the carbon and nitrogen worms love. When buried underground, these scraps begin to break down slowly instead of drying out or being eaten by pests on the surface. Microorganisms move in first, starting the decomposition process. Worms follow closely behind, feeding on both the decaying material and the microbes themselves. This creates a concentrated feeding zone that draws worms from surrounding soil into your raised bed or garden. The beauty of this method is that it mimics how nature works in forests. Leaves, fallen fruit, and plant debris are constantly buried and broken down below the surface, feeding soil life without any digging or disturbance. A lot of gardeners just toss their kitchen scraps right on top of the soil or into open compost piles, and then, they wonder why worms don't really multiply in their beds. The main reason is exposure. When organic matter sits on the surface, it dries out super quickly, heats up, or honestly, just attracts all sorts of pests like flies and rodents. Worms, on the other hand, really prefer cool, dark, moist environments, and that's exactly what you give them when you bury food underground. Burying your scraps also helps protect those valuable nutrients from being lost to sunlight, wind, and heavy rain. Rather than washing away or evaporating, the nutrients are slowly released right in the zone where plant roots can get to them. Over time, this actually creates pockets of deep fertility that gradually spread outward as worms move through the soil. So, here's the thing. Depth really matters. If you bury your scraps too shallow, you might end up with smells and pests, but if you go too deep, decomposition can slow way down. The sweet spot is usually about 6 to 10 inches below the soil surface. At this depth, it stays nice and moist, cool, and importantly, there's still enough oxygen for the decomposing material. In raised beds, you can just dig a narrow trench between rows or planting areas and fill it with kitchen scraps before covering it back up with soil. In garden plots, simply dig a hole, add your scraps, and replace the soil. The key is to keep the material fully covered so worms feel safe moving in. This method works almost year-round, but honestly, it really shines during the growing season and those mild months. In warmer soil, decomposition happens faster and worm activity increases. That said, even in cooler periods, buried organic matter continues breaking down slowly, creating a food source that worms will find as conditions improve. If you garden in regions with dry spells, this technique becomes even more valuable. Buried scraps hold moisture, which attracts worms during drought-like conditions when surface food sources disappear. So while worms love many things, not all kitchen waste actually belongs in your soil. You'll want to avoid burying meat, fish, dairy, oily foods, and heavily salted leftovers. These can smell, attract pests, and break down in ways that can harm your soil balance. If you stick to plant-based scraps and natural materials, you'll, avoid most problems. Also, it's a good idea to avoid burying large amounts in one spot. Smaller, spread-out deposits really encourage worms to move throughout the bed instead of clustering in just one area. One of the most exciting parts of this method is just how quickly it works. In healthy soil, worms often find buried food within days. And within a few weeks, you might notice improved soil texture, better moisture retention, and even increased plant vigor. If you dig carefully near old burial spots after a month or two, you'll often find worm clusters actively feeding. Over time, repeating this process turns average soil into dark, crumbly, living earth. This is not a one-time trick, but a long-term soil-building habit that, honestly, just compounds in benefits year after year. Raised beds are especially well-suited for this approach. Because the soil is loose and well-drained, worms move in quickly once food is available. Regularly burying scraps in different areas of your bed creates an even distribution of fertility. If you're starting a new raised bed, burying organic matter before planting can jumpstart soil life. Layer scraps beneath the topsoil and let worms do the rest. It's honestly one of the easiest ways to turn a new bed into a productive one without expensive inputs. What I love most about this method is how practical and sustainable it is. Instead of throwing kitchen waste away, you turn it into living fertilizer right where it's needed. You reduce waste, improve soil health, and grow stronger plants, all at the same time. This is the kind of simple, old-school gardening wisdom we focus on here at Roots Haven Grounds. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just working with natural processes to build healthier gardens from the ground up. If you want a garden that improves every season instead of wearing out your soil, start feeding the life beneath your feet. Burying organic kitchen scraps is one of the easiest ways to attract worms, enrich your soil, and grow better food with less effort. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe to Roots Haven Grounds, share this article with a fellow gardener, and join us as we keep uncovering simple, powerful ways to grow healthier gardens naturally. Your soil will thank you, and so will your harvest.